Hello beautiful people and welcome. In this video I am going to be covering one example on how to factor when you actually can't. So we're going to start off with this expression. So we have 9x to the fourth power minus 12x to the third power plus x squared plus 2x. So while reading that, I noticed that every single term did have an x in it. So I can actually start by getting out a GCF, which is a form of factoring. So I'm going to pull out, step number one, I'm going to pull out a GCF. And that GCF happens to be an x. So once I pull out that GCF, I'm going to be left over with 9x cubed minus 12x squared plus x plus 2. Now because we have four terms, I can potentially factor with grouping. And I'm noticing that if I group these two together, I do have a GCF of 3. However, if I group these two together, I don't really have anything. I have an x and a 2, so maybe I can pull out a 1. So left over needs to be in our bubbles an x and a 2. If I pull out a 3x squared, I'm left over with a 3 in front of x. And unfortunately, we do not have a 3 in front of this x. So we cannot factor. What needs to happen next is step number 2. After you have checked for factoring, we need to use the rational root theorem to list all possible roots. And the way to do it in our class is we talked about that silly snake. So here's the tail of the silly snake, and here's the head of the silly snake. So we're going to put the tail over its head because the snake is silly. So we have 2 over 9. Now question comes up is, how do I know what the factors are? So we know the factors are by answering a simple question. What times what equals 2? What times what equals 9? So we have a 1 times 2 equals 2. Now you're always going to put that plus or minus in front of your numbers. Then we have what times what is 9? Well, 1 times 9 is 9. But then also 3 times 3 is 9. Notice I'm not putting 3 twice. We don't do duplicates. Now these are your possible roots. It looks a little weird. There's a lot happening, so we're going to simplify it. You're going to want to, let's see if I can find a highlighter real quick. You're going to want to put all of your denominators, all 3 of these, under each numerator. So for the first one, we have plus or minus 1 over 1, plus or minus 1 over 3, plus or minus 1 over 9. Then you're going to go back, let's see if I have a different color, and do it for 2. So now you have plus or minus 2 over 1, plus or minus 2 over 3, running out of space here, plus or minus 2 over 9. Now you're not there yet. You still have to go back and simplify these fractions, because writing 1 over 1 is a little silly. So we got plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1/3, plus or minus 1/9. 2 over 1 is just 2, plus or minus 2/3, plus or minus, we can simplify that? No, we cannot. We got 2 over 9. If you simplify your fractions and you get repeats, only write them once. We don't need them. I am going to rearrange this one last time. We want our whole numbers first. The fractions don't really matter. Their order usually is just listed out. Now the reason we want our whole numbers first is because we want to check these whole numbers first to make sure they work or they don't. So we're going to do step number 3. You're going to plug in each possible root into the equation and check which one gives you 0. We want it to equal 0. So I'm going to take my equation. I'm not going to use the original. Even if you wanted to, you can a little bit. So I'm going to take my equation already factored. So 9 x cubed minus 12x squared plus x plus 2. So in here, you're going to try 1, 1, 1, see if that equals to 0. Negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and you keep going. I'm going to cheat a little bit for the sake of time and tell you that I was given the root, and that root was given to me as 2/3. So they want me to use 2/3. So I'm going to go in here, and that says 2/3. I'm going to go off of here. If they already give you a root, just go with what they give you. In this case, they gave me 2/3. So that means that when I plug in 2/3 positive, that gives us a 0. All you have to do here is plug it into the calculator, press enter. If the output is 0, that is your root. If it's not 0, then you keep tracking. So now that we know that 2/3 is a root, again, because it equals to 0, also because they did give that to us, we are going to use synthetic division. So this is step number 4. So we're going to use synthetic division to continue to solve. I'm like trying to get this closer for you guys. I don't know if that worked or not. Okay, so we're going to use synthetic division. So upside down bar, if you're in different class, then it's going to look different for you. So we have 9, we have negative 12, we have 1, and we have a positive 2. Now, because we know that a root is 2/3, this should always have a remainder of 0. We have to check, but it should have a remainder of 0. So we have 2/3. We're going to bring down 9. And for this, I do encourage using a calculator. Obviously, it's fractions. But the way you're going to do this, here's a thinking bubble. With fractions, you're going to multiply, and then you're going to divide. So we're going to do, here's my calculator, 2 times 9 divided by 3, and that is 6. So when we're multiplying on the outside, you're going to multiply the top, divide by the bottom. So that gives us 6. Adding on the inside, we got negative 12 plus 6, and that is negative 6. And once again, we're going to multiply the top, divide by the bottom number. So we got negative 6 times 2 divided by 3. We got negative 4. And again, just because it's a fraction, we're going to multiply the top divided by the bottom. Typically, you just multiply on the outside. So then we got 1 minus 4, which is 3. It's silly that I did that on the calculator, but that happens. So we got negative 3 times 2 divided by 3. That gives us a negative 2. Adding, and yes, that does give us a 0. Okay, now that it gives us a 0, we can take our quotient, this answer here, and rewrite it. So we have remainder 0, 1, 2. So rewriting it, so step 4, 5, rewrite. So we're going to rewrite this as 9x squared minus 6x minus 3. Then we're going to immediately do step number 6, which is try to factor. If you cannot factor, then you just repeat step 3 and 4 and 5. So step 3 was to plug in our possibilities in here. So if you cannot factor, and maybe we can't, I don't know, I have to check. If we cannot factor, then we continue to plug stuff in. So let's try to factor. We're going to use the rainbow method. Here's our 2 clouds. So I'm going to multiply. So I have x squared minus 6x. 9 times 3 is 27. And we want 2 numbers that add up to negative 6 and multiply to negative 27. And I'm going to choose the 9 and 3 we just used for our factors. We have x minus 9, x plus 3, as 9 minus 3 is 6. Now this right here are not your true factors. This is fake, I call it. We have to get your original 9 and put it underneath as a denominator. Simplify, we got x minus 1 here. We got x plus, oh, we don't. We can simplify this as 1 third, but this denominator belongs in front of x. So, since yes, we can factor on this one, we're going to jump into writing out our answer. So here's how I want you to write your answer. List out your information before you jump into writing your answer. List your information. So first we had a GCF. That GCF was x. Then we had a root. That root was 2/9. 2/9? No, 2/3. Because we had a root of 2/3, sorry, the AC just turned on. I'm not sure if you can hear that. Because we had a root of 2/3, that means we are going to positive 2/3. We're going to do opposite of what we see, x minus 2/3, as our factor. But because we have a denominator, we're going to bring that forward. So 3x minus 2 is our factor. Now we had another root. Did we have another root? We did not. We continued by factoring, so we did not have another root. If you did, just do this for all of your roots that you had, if it didn't factor. But ours did factor. So we had x minus 1, 3, x plus 1 were our factors. So once you list out all of your information, then you can write out your answer. I'm going to put a little answer box here in pink. GCF, factor number 1. The order of the factors in the bubbles don't matter. X minus 1 and 3x plus 1. Typically you'd see the x minus 1 because it's just smaller out in front, but it's okay. And so here are your factors to the original expression. I hope this helps you on your homework. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.